Employees, workers, just got a big boost from the Federal Trade Commission, which on Tuesday banned nearly all non-competes in employment agreements. Now, a non-compete clause is a contractual term between an employer and a worker that blocks the worker from working for a competing employer or starting a competing business, typically within a certain geographic area and period of time after the worker's initial employment ends. The FTC received 26,000 comments during a public comment period. Chair Lina said in a statement, "We heard from employees who, because of non-competes, were stuck in abusive workplaces, robbing people of their economic liberty, also robs them of all sorts of other freedoms." President Joe Biden said on X, for millions of workers who make less than $58,656 a year, I'm saying you have the right to overtime protections. If you work extra hours, you deserve extra pay. However, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce said it plans to sue to block the rule, saying how the FTC's new decision to ban employer non-compete agreements is not only unlawful, but also a blatant power grab that will undermine American businesses' ability to remain competitive. What do you make of this one, Robby?
Well, we're going to disagree on this for sure. I do not favor this policy existing. I mean, it was just declared by Lina and the FTC. There's no new law behind it. It's just them deciding they have the authority to declare this. We'll see if that.
This is a basic administrative law point, but administrative agencies have various authorities that are delegated to them by law in the creation of the administrative state.
Yeah, well, we'll see if the Supreme Court agrees that they have the authority.
Sure, I mean that's the question, but they
declaring, and I bet it'll be no.
Well, I bet the right-wing Supreme Court will, because regardless of how much we talk about cultural issues in the Supreme Court, the most consistent trend that they've seen is always siding with business over the last 40 years or so. Always siding with business, even a lot of the liberal appointees on the Supreme Court.
So let's say that a rival media organization, let's call it, I don't know, the Daily News or something, wants to hire me to be the host of their television show, and they're offering me more money, and I'm going to go be their host. But they don't want to do it. They think it's too risky unless they can guarantee I won't immediately leave for another thing. Maybe they want to build me a new studio, and they only want to do it if they know they get me and that I'm not going to be shopping my work somewhere else for some period of time or something. So they're not going to offer me this job unless they can do that. And I'm willing to to have that clause be in there, that I'm not going to look for some other position. Lina, the government is saying, no, that is illegal. That is an illegal business transaction between you and this other media company. Yes, I don't think that should be illegal.
Well, I don't want to ask you your salary, Robby, but it really probably wouldn't apply to you. The new law prohibits employers from imposing non-competes on most district employees who make under $150,000 a year. Employees who earn over $150,000 a year can only be subject to a one-year non-compete.
I mean, it could be the same
and
case
only
with
if
someone in a lower.
Well, here's the reality.
Someone's going to get on-the-job training. They're like, I'm going to train you to be.
As wonderful it is for you to imagine a world where the average person is having entire media studios built around them. The average worker is a low-wage worker. Typically, these are enforced predominantly in fast food contracts. So fast food companies prohibit employees from working for any competing fast food business during and after their employment. So if I work for, let's say, McDonald's, and I tried to unionize my workplace and I was fired and I'm trying to litigate my retaliation claim, I can't go work for Burger King. I can't go work for Starbucks. I can't go work for anyone else, because McDonald's has not only said, you can't work for me, you can't work for anyone else in this entire industry.
We're going to do the training, and so then we get you for a certain amount of time. I mean, this is an agreement you make with them, and if you don't like the terms of that agreement, you don't have to work for them. That's a voluntary decision for what the terms of your employment would be, and the government is saying, no, you are not allowed to make that
deal. The problem is
deal.
It's not voluntary, and the whole point of us having labor protections is that when you have to work to eat, when you have to work to put a roof over your head, no, we don't all have to work to eat. Some people have to work to eat, and some people have discretionary income and are business owners and capitalists who definitionally don't have to work for eat because they're the owners of capital. And they eat because other people work and they own property and they own capital that inures to their benefit regardless of whether or not they work.
And is restructuring their business, is the government interfering and restructuring their businesses and the arrangement of their contracts going to be to the benefit, the flourishing of these workplaces and their workers? I say no. You say yes.
The reason that we have
the government says yes.
And so the reason that we have unions in labor rights in the first place is because there's an understanding that because people need to survive, they can always be coerced into situations where they don't have any bargaining power. And what the people realized is that if all of the workers acted in tandem, they had the power to limit the profitability, the ability to profit of their employers in a way that finally made them come to the table and actually more fairly share the benefits, the proceeds of their labor with the people who actually worked to make it. And so what has happened is across the average American worker, working class person is no longer this kind of hard hat stereotype that we had from 50 years ago. It's now fast food workers, retail workers, and gig economy workers who are oftentimes circling back and forth in the same kind of jobs. I worked at Banana Republic, now I work for Forever 21. I worked at Burger King, now I work for Starbucks. And so what these companies have realized is that they have an incredible amount of control over this entire class of the labor force by basically saying, you work for me or you don't work at all. And it won't surprise you to know that many people who are working in these low-wage jobs are doing so because they don't have a lot of other opportunities. They can't simply say, well, let me go find a job at a media organization that might build me a beautiful new studio and build a whole show around me. So they're basically constructively saying that people are coerced into whatever conditions that McDonald's, Burger King, Starbucks, or whatever.
I'm saying they might not be
in.
inclined to hire, especially junior people or starting out people at all, if they can't structure the contract so that they know they get them for a set period of time or they're not going to lose them. So then they might not hire that person at all.
What?
I mean, it's exactly what I just said.
I'm sorry.
A lot of these protections.
I just don't understand.
A lot of these protections are to
McDonald's
the benefit of more senior employees, including minimum wage and all of those kinds of things, because they want to hire. They might not know if this person's value might not be the what they're worth paying might not be worth it, except under certain circumstances for which they are proposing a contract and you are accepting it, and you are the government saying, I consent, I don't.
Here's a novel idea. If a business wants to retain a workforce, they can pay them fair wages and treat them well,
no business,
not
they're
abuse
going to pay
them,
them what
and
they're worth.
And not discriminate
or they're not
against
going to pay them at all.
All right. That is not like that. That's not how it works.
That is how it works.
Wait a minute,
it's exactly
Robby,
how it works.
If an employee cannot leave and work anywhere else, you're not paying them what they're worth. You're paying them what they'll take to survive because they don't have any opportunities.
But you have this magic fantasy that, we could just force them to pay them more. Then they're just not going to pay them. Then they're going to find work. They're going to make the existing people who work there do more, or they're going to automate all these jobs.
You're arguing that.
It's going to be automated, and all of these fast food counters hastened. All of these people are going to lose their jobs because of what the FTC is doing. It's a war on employment in the country.
Woo, you're a company man. You're arguing that...
I know Economics 101.
You're arguing that but for a contract that prevents an employee from finding alternative employment, companies couldn't stay in office unless you are tethered to your employer by a legally enforceable contract that doesn't give you the freedom to choose where you work, no matter how much you're paid, no matter how much.
Wait a minute. Would just be torn over down. We don't want to pay back our student loans. Contract.
All about interrupting, Robby, is showing a little vulnerability in your argument. Do you have the confidence to let me finish my take?
Go right ahead.
Your argument is that absent a contract that prevents a worker to freely take their labor where they want and work for who they want for the wages they want, companies would not be able to stay in business. That is a terrible indictment.
That's not what I said at all.
That is a terrible indictment of these companies. And frankly, it is also a reason why that kind of lack of freedom being locked in, that's kind of the same kind of monopoly problem that actually drives up prices and prevents competitiveness among businesses.
The lack of freedom here is between the worker and the employer being able to make a contract that they mutually agree to. That is the freedom being violated by the government. And
all right, we don't have to belabor this because you guys have actually worked before and you know how this works. So
tell us what you think.
You have more freedom now. Congratulations for Lina and the FTC. Lina, who was so dangerous that Apple TV wouldn't even let her be interviewed on Jon Stewart's show. That's the kind of populism that we're seeing creep through the cracks here and now.
That does it for us today on Rising. We will be back with another edition of our show tomorrow.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who prefer to listen while you're on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
See you later.
Bye-bye.